Final Fantasy VII Remake is getting an information blowout, with brand new details popping up every second. And that also means that any chance I thought I had of getting some sleep has gone out of the window. This information blitz continues with producer Yoshinori Kitase discussing how he wants the saga to live on for generations. After finishing Final Fantasy VI, which Kitase feels was a more domestic title, with the next game he wanted to do something that would go outside of Japan and to have a global impact. Because of this, there were a lot of debates if Final Fantasy should evolve from a 2D game into a 3D one, and it was the bold decision of Kitase and the team in 1997 to use the latest technology and make the game as advanced as they possibly could for the time. And Final Fantasy VII Remake has this exact type of thinking when it comes to its development, with Kitase saying, quote, "One common theme between the original and what we're doing now is that idea of using technology to make characters more expressive. That was one of the main reasons we wanted to move to polygon characters originally. We thought we could make them much more expressive than 2D sprites could be." Remake runs on Unreal Engine 4, with the team at Square Enix working on custom modifications and enhancements. A lot of the new technology is all geared toward making the characters' facial expressions much more dynamic and believable, just to be able to depict more emotions. A lot of this new technology also has a heavy emphasis on AI systems, as well as technology that helps synchronize the mouth movements of each character to their respective voice track. Kitase also talks about their approach to remaking the game. Apparently, the team looked on the internet for people's comments and opinions to find out which particular scenes in the original game were memorable, and which ones that people wanted to see or which stayed with them. With Kitase saying, quote, "But if we were to make just a 100% one-for-one remake of the original game, just following the story exactly as it was, and not change anything, I think people would like it, but it would just be like, oh yeah, I remember this. This was great, how nostalgic." And that's all you get. And honestly, I could not agree more here. I think that if the game was a one-for-one remake, for the first few hours, it would be really cool. And then after a while, it would just be like, this is the same thing that I've already played, and it honestly wouldn't be nearly as fulfilling. Speaking of which, he also discusses the change to action combat, and how the younger audience influenced it, with Kitase saying, quote, "We've got lots of younger gamers now, and they like that very instinctive action game style of control. There's a whole new generation who has likely never played Final Fantasy VII, and the focus of refining the heavy action is to cater to them, to that new, younger audience who are familiar with that and expect that." There's gonna be a lot of video game boomers mad about that one. In the interview, Kitase was asked about such themes as environmentalism and how they're more relevant now than even when the game came out. While he did not want to draw any direct correlations, for obvious reasons, he did give a pretty interesting answer. Quote, "Obviously, it's still a fantasy world. It's a fantasy game, and the concepts of Mako energy and the live stream are very much fantasy concepts. We aren't specifically trying to make a comment on one specific thing, or say anything about a specific real-world issue through that. We're trying to make more timeless and universal themes. I really want to see people look at the way those issues are tackled in Final Fantasy VII, and maybe see how they resonate with some of the issues that are important to them, but we can only do that by keeping it as a universal presentation rather than specifically pointing out one thing. The realism of what we're showing now is much higher, and the way that we're depicting those things is very different now. So I really want to see how the messages may be received differently by the people these days in this new depiction." Kitase also says that him and his team are unlikely to ever get a break even once after the first part is released. They are jumping directly into Part 2's development without wasting any time. Though Kitase notes that he's not worried about possibly having to work on the remake for the rest of his career, saying, quote, "I think it's a very important thing. My only hope is that the team doesn't get burned out. Working on these big projects back to back is bound to be very stressful. So I genuinely hope that the team is able to fit a vacation in there somewhere." Kitase closed by saying, quote, "Final Fantasy VII is is a game which, if it stayed just as the original, would be remembered as something from the past, and people wouldn't be as engaged with it. I think in order to be something that continues to be loved and followed by the future generations, we have to keep updating it as we're doing now. And in 10 years time, 20 years time, it may need to be done again. So even if this is the only thing that I do in the rest of my career, I won't be disappointed. Did Kitase just suggest that they might need to remake Final Fantasy VII Remake? I'm pretty sure he was joking, but knowing Square, I'm pretty sure we'll see Final Fantasy VII Remake remastered one day, and it'll be coming to PlayStation 6 in the distant future. I'm pretty sure I'll be Night Sky King by that point. But Ultima Weapons, I want to know what you think. Do you believe Kitase and his team are on the right track with developing Final Fantasy VII Remake? Subscribe, click the bell icon, and let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoy the content on this channel, be sure to check out the Patreon for the Night Sky Prince, where these videos are made possible by people like David Pickering, who helps support the channel directly. And if you're interested in doing the same, check the link in the description below. Shout out to David and the rest of the Ultima community.